Imagine standing at the bottom of a mountain. It's so tall, the peak disappears into the clouds. You look up, and all you can think is, how could I ever climb that? That's what most people feel when they look at their dreams. The new business they want to build, the weight they want to lose, the degree they want to earn, the money they want to save, the relationships they want to repair, the future they want to live. The mountain looks impossibly high, so they freeze at the bottom, overwhelmed, and never take the first step. But what if I told you that climbing that mountain doesn't take a giant leap? What if I told you that the only thing it takes is one small step, just 1% of progress each day? That's the 1% rule, and it's the secret that separates those who stay stuck at the bottom from those who actually reach the top. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Success doesn't come from sudden breakthroughs, overnight miracles, or massive changes all at once. Success is built quietly, slowly, consistently, through the smallest possible actions repeated day after day. 1% progress doesn't sound like much, but when you compound it, it changes everything. Let me give you an example. In America, we're surrounded by stories of people who seem to rise overnight. The viral YouTuber, the entrepreneur who suddenly sold a startup for millions, the athlete who became an instant star. But if you pull back the curtain, you'll see years of small, unglamorous steps. The YouTuber posted videos for years with barely views. The entrepreneur stayed up late every night, improving tiny details of their product. The athlete put in early mornings in the gym, long before anyone knew they were there. Their overnight success wasn't overnight. It was built on the 1% rule. And if you don't believe me, let's look at the math. If you get just 1% better each day for a year, you don't end up 365% better. Because of compounding, you end up almost 38 times better. Think about that. Just one small choice, 1% progress daily, turns into exponential growth. Now flip it around. If you get 1% worse every day, if you keep choosing procrastination, distraction, laziness, you don't just stay the same. You decline, you shrink, you fade. That's how people wake up 5 years later wondering where their energy went, their health went, their opportunities went. I once met a man in Chicago who told me he used to weigh over 300 pounds. For years, he tried and failed to lose weight, always looking for the perfect diet, the perfect workout, the massive transformation plan. But nothing worked. Finally, he tried something different. He didn't set out to lose 100 pounds in a year. He just decided to take the stairs at work instead of the elevator. That was it. Then, a week later, he added drinking one less soda a day. Then, a month later, he started walking for 10 minutes in the evenings. Small steps, tiny changes. But over time, the weight started coming off. A year later, he was down 60 pounds. 2 years later, he was unrecognizable. He told me, "The stairs changed my life because they taught me that small things matter." That's the 1% rule in action. Here's the hook you need to grab onto. You don't need to change your whole life today. You don't need to take a giant leap. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to do one small thing better today than you did yesterday. That's it. 1%. That's how you beat procrastination. That's how you build habits. That's how you create unstoppable momentum. The problem is, most people underestimate the power of small steps. They think, one workout won't make a difference. One page of a book won't make me smarter. $1 saved won't make me rich. 1 hour of work won't change my future. And they're right. One day doesn't change much. But one day repeated 100 times changes everything. That's why people stay stuck. They're blind to the compound effect. They give up because the progress is invisible at first. But just because you can't see it today doesn't mean it isn't growing. Think of planting a seed. On day 1, you put it in the soil. On day 2, you water it. Day 3, still nothing. A week later, still nothing. A month later, maybe a tiny sprout. Most people quit because they don't see instant results. But the seed is growing underground the entire time, building roots, preparing to break through. And when it does, it grows faster and stronger than you imagined. That's what the 1% rule does for your life. I'll tell you about a woman I met in Seattle who dreamed of becoming a writer. For years, she said she wanted to write a book, but never started. She thought she needed long weekends, months off, the perfect setup. But life never gave her that. Finally, she decided to write just 1 page a day. That's it, 1 page. At first, it felt silly. But after a year, she had 365 pages. A full book. Today, She's a published author, and she'll tell you the only thing that changed her life was committing to the 1% rule. The mountain looks impossible if you stare at the peak. But if you focus on the next step, and then the next, suddenly the impossible becomes possible. And here's the beauty of it. Once you start moving, momentum kicks in. One small win makes the next one easier. 1% progress makes tomorrow's 1% feel lighter. Before long, you're not just moving, you're unstoppable. So if you've been waiting for the perfect time to start your dream, to fix your habits, to change your life, let me tell you, the perfect time doesn't exist. The only perfect step is the one you take today. And it doesn't have to be massive. It just has to be 1% better than yesterday. Think about the last time you set a big New Year's resolution. Maybe you promised yourself you'd finally hit the gym 5 times a week, or cut out sugar completely, or start that business you've been dreaming about. For the first week, maybe even the first month, you were fired up. You went all in. But then life got in the way. Work got busy, family responsibilities piled up, your motivation dipped, and suddenly the resolution collapsed. You were back at square one, feeling frustrated, guilty, and stuck. That's the trap of going all or nothing. We live in a culture where we celebrate the extremes. Hustle harder, go big or go home, burn the boats. But here's the secret most people miss. Extreme approaches almost never last. What lasts are small, sustainable changes, the 1% shifts you can stick with every single day. Let me give you an example from the world of sports. In the early 2000s, the British cycling team was considered a complete failure. They hadn't won a Tour de France in over 100 years. They were so bad that some companies refused to sell them bikes because they were afraid of hurting their reputation. But then they hired a coach named Sir Dave Brailsford, who introduced a philosophy called the aggregation of marginal gains. It was simple: improve everything by just 1%. Not by 50%, not by 10%, just 1%. They upgraded bike seats by 1%. They improved sleep by 1%. They optimized nutrition by 1%. They even changed the way the athletes wash their hands, reducing the chance of getting sick by 1%. Tiny, almost invisible improvements. The result? Within 5 years, they dominated the Tour de France. Within a decade, British cyclists had won 16 Olympic gold medals and 5 Tour de France titles. How did they do it? Not by chasing massive changes, but by committing to the 1% rule. Now, let's bring that into your life. If the 1% rule can transform an entire national team into champions, imagine what it can do for your career, your health, your relationships, your dreams. The key is to stop underestimating the small things. Let's talk about money. Americans love the idea of hitting it big, winning the lottery, finding the next big stock, striking gold overnight. But most people who end up financially secure didn't get there overnight. They got there through compound growth. Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, didn't become a billionaire until after age 50. How? By sticking to steady investments, compounding slowly, year after year. If you save just $5 a day, that might not feel like much. But invest it consistently, and over time it grows into thousands, then tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands. That's the 1% rule applied to money. But here's the real reason most people don't follow the 1% rule. It feels too slow. We live in a world of instant gratification. We want Amazon Prime results for our life goals, one-day shipping for success. And when it doesn't show up instantly, we quit. That's why so many diets fail. That's why so many gym memberships go unused. That's why so many dreams are abandoned halfway. The truth is, the 1% rule asks you to trust the process long before you see the results. That's hard, but that's also what makes it powerful. Think of it like building credit. You don't get good credit overnight. You build it by paying small bills on time, again and again. At first, the number barely moves. But eventually, your score climbs, and suddenly banks are giving you opportunities you never had before. That's how small steps open big doors. I once heard the story of a young woman from Texas who wanted to run a marathon, but could barely jog a mile. Instead of giving up, she committed to running just one more block every day. Some days it was hard. Some days she didn't feel like it. But she always did that one extra block. A year later, she finished her first marathon. Not because she leaped from 1 mile to 26 overnight, but because she honored the 1% rule every single day. Here's the takeaway. You don't have to believe in massive transformation right now. You just have to believe in the next step. You don't need to know how you'll get all the way to the top of the mountain. You just need to keep moving forward by 1%. But let's go deeper. Why does this work? Why is the 1% rule so effective? The answer lies in psychology. Our brains are wired to resist big changes. When you try to overhaul your life overnight, your brain sounds the alarm. It says, this is unsafe. This is too much. That's why so many resolutions fail. But when you make a tiny change, when you commit to just 1%, your brain doesn't panic. It accepts the change. Over time, those changes stack up, and you've rewired your brain for success without triggering resistance. Think of it like this. Would you rather try to push a boulder up a steep hill in one exhausting effort, or would you rather nudge it a little bit each day until gravity starts working in your favor? The second option is easier, smarter, and far more sustainable. That's the power of momentum. And here's where it gets exciting. Momentum doesn't just grow, it multiplies. The more consistent you are with your small steps, the more confidence you build. The more confidence you build, the more steps you take. And soon, what started as small daily wins turns into massive, unstoppable success. That's why some people seem to skyrocket out of nowhere. It wasn't nowhere. It was the 1% rule compounding in the background. Let me put it another way. Imagine two airplanes leaving Los Angeles at the same time. One heads straight to New York. The other is just 1% off course. At first, you don't even notice the difference. But by the time they cross the country, that tiny shift puts the second plane hundreds of miles away from its destination. That's how small decisions shape your life. 1% in the right direction can take you to your dreams. 1% in the wrong direction can lead you far away from them. So let me ask you this. What's your 1% today? Maybe it's reading 10 minutes instead of scrolling on your phone. Maybe it's drinking one glass of water instead of soda. Maybe it's saving $5 instead of spending it on coffee. Maybe it's making one phone call that could lead to a new opportunity. Don't underestimate these moves. Don't dismiss them as too small. They are the foundation of everything great you will ever build. The 1% rule is not about doing everything at once. It's about doing something today, and something tomorrow, and something the next day, until one day you look back and realize you've built a life you couldn't even imagine when you started. Think about your career for a moment. Most people dream of massive promotions, big raises, or landing their dream job overnight. But here's the truth. Almost nobody jumps from entry level to CEO in one step. Success at work is built 1% at a time. Take someone who commits to learning just one new skill every week. Public speaking, Excel shortcuts, a bit of coding, or leadership strategies. 1 year later, that's 52 new skills. Do you think a boss notices that kind of growth? Absolutely. That's how careers are transformed, not by waiting for luck, but by stacking small wins until they become undeniable. Let me share a real story. In California, there was a guy working as a customer service rep. He wasn't in management, he wasn't highly paid, but he decided to commit to improving just a little each day. He read for 15 minutes every night on leadership and communication. He volunteered for small projects at work, even if they seemed boring. Over 5 years, he went from answering phones to running an entire department. People said he was an overnight success. He laughed because it was 5 years of 1% effort every single day. Now let's talk about health. The US is a country where quick fixes dominate. Diet pills, extreme cleanses, miracle workouts. Everyone wants instant results. But we all know how those stories end. Short-term gains, long-term disappointment. The people who truly transform their health don't rely on magic. They rely on small, consistent changes. Imagine someone who drinks 2 cans of soda every day. That's about 300 calories each. Cut out just 1 soda a day, and by the end of the year, that's over 100,000 fewer calories consumed. That's the equivalent of about 30 pounds of fat. 1 soda doesn't seem like a big deal, but 1 soda a day for a year? That's life-changing. Or think about exercise. Most people picture a 2-hour gym session, 6 days a week. But what if you just walk for 10 minutes every day? 10 minutes is nothing, right? Wrong. Over a year, that's 60 hours of walking. That's thousands of calories burned. That's stronger lungs, a healthier heart, more energy, and better focus. And once you build the habit, 10 minutes easily grows to 20, then 30, and before you know it, you've become someone who moves daily. The 1% rule turns small effort into a lifestyle. Relationships work the same way. You don't build a great marriage or a deep friendship overnight. You build them 1% at a time. A quick text saying, "I'm thinking about you." A handwritten note left on the counter. An extra 5 minutes of listening without checking your phone. These aren't grand gestures, they're small investments. But over time, they create unshakable trust and love. I once heard about an older couple in Chicago who had been married for over 50 years. When people asked their secret, the husband smiled and said, "Every day, I try to do just one thing that makes her life a little easier." It wasn't about huge gifts or dramatic moments. It was about daily 1% actions that built a marriage strong enough to last half a century. Now let's zoom out. Whether it's career, health, or relationships, the 1% rule thrives on one word: consistency. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Anyone can sprint for a week, but the people who win are the ones who keep showing up, even on the days they don't feel like it. Think of it like brushing your teeth. Brushing once for 3 hours won't save your smile, but brushing for 2 minutes every morning and night will keep your teeth healthy for decades. Life works the same way. It's not about the one giant action. It's about the small, repeated actions that compound over time. Here's the trap most people fall into. They don't see results fast enough, so they quit. They say, "What's the point of saving $10? That won't make me rich." Or, "What's the point of one workout? I don't see abs yet." They underestimate the compound effect. But think of this. If you improve by just 1% each day, in 1 year, you're not 365% better. You're 37 times better. That's the math of compounding. Here's a story to drive it home. A young man in New York wanted to become a writer, but he struggled with procrastination and self-doubt. Instead of forcing himself to write an entire book, he committed to writing just 1 page a day. Some days he didn't feel inspired, but he always wrote that single page. A year later, he had 365 pages, the draft of his first novel. That novel got published, and it launched his career. He didn't succeed because he was more talented than others. He succeeded because he honored the 1% rule. So here's the truth. You already have everything you need to change your life. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to wait until Monday, or until the kids are older, or until work slows down. You just need to take one step today, then another tomorrow, then another the day after. Those steps, no matter how small, will carry you further than you can imagine. And let's not forget, the 1% rule is not just about what you add, it's also about what you subtract. Cutting one bad habit by 1% can free up massive amounts of energy. Maybe it's spending 1% less time on social media. Maybe it's eating 1% less junk food. Maybe it's complaining 1% less. These subtractions make room for growth. Think of it like decluttering a house. You don't throw out everything at once. You start with one drawer, then one shelf, then one closet. Over time, the whole house feels lighter, freer, and more open. That's what happens when you apply the 1% rule to your habits and your mindset. So ask yourself right now, what's 1% you can start with today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Maybe it's sending one email that moves your career forward. Maybe it's doing 5 push-ups. Maybe it's telling someone you love that you appreciate them. Don't dismiss it as small. Small is powerful. Small is unstoppable. Small is the seed of massive success. Life has a way of testing us. You can be on the right path, making progress, feeling good, and then suddenly, something knocks you off track. Maybe it's losing a job. Maybe it's a health scare. Maybe it's the weight of stress, anxiety, or unexpected bills. In moments like these, it's tempting to give up, to feel like all your progress has been erased. But here's the truth most people miss. Setbacks don't erase your progress. They reveal your foundation. And if your foundation is built on the 1% rule, you are stronger than you think. Let's imagine 2 people starting a fitness journey. One person goes all in, strict diet, brutal workouts, cutting out everything overnight. The other person simply commits to walking 15 minutes every day and eating one healthier meal. Now, what happens when life gets busy? The all-in person misses one workout, feels like a failure, and soon spirals back into old habits. But the 1% person? Even on the hardest days, they can still manage that 15-minute walk. They still make progress, no matter how small. That's why the 1% rule isn't just about growth, it's about resilience. Think about the stock market. Anyone can invest when things are booming, when numbers are green and optimism is high. But real investors, the ones who win over decades, are the ones who stay steady during the downturns. They don't panic. They don't quit. They know that small, consistent investments, even in tough times, create massive wealth over time. That's the same mindset you need for your life. When setbacks come, your 1% actions keep you grounded, steady, and moving forward. Here's a story that captures this perfectly. During the Great Depression in the 1930s, when businesses were collapsing and families were struggling, a man named Charles Merrill had a vision. Instead of giving up, he believed ordinary Americans could still build wealth through small, consistent investments. He went on to found Merrill Lynch, one of the largest financial firms in the U.S. His message was simple: don't wait for the perfect time. Don't try to make a fortune overnight. Just keep investing, little by little, and trust the compounding effect. Even in the hardest times, the 1% rule was powerful enough to change lives. But setbacks aren't always external. Sometimes, the biggest battle is inside your own head. Doubt creeps in. Fear tells you you're not good enough. Comparison whispers that you're behind everyone else. That's when you need the 1% rule the most. You don't have to defeat all your doubts in one day. You don't have to silence fear forever. You just have to take one action today that proves your doubts wrong. One call, one workout, one journal entry, one step. That's how you build resilience. Not by eliminating fear, but by moving forward in spite of it. Let's bring it down to something relatable. Imagine you're a college student in the US, juggling classes, a part-time job, and the stress of debt. It feels overwhelming. You don't have the time or energy to transform your life in one giant leap. But what if you studied just 20 minutes more each day? What if you saved just $2 more each week? What if you sent one email a month to someone in your field, building your network slowly? None of those actions will change your life overnight. But over 4 years, those tiny steps could mean graduating with honors, saving hundreds of dollars, and having professional connections waiting when you finish school. That's resilience built through 1% at a time. Here's another way to think about it. Setbacks are like storms. If your ship is fragile, one storm can sink you. But if you've been reinforcing your ship every day, adding small improvements, tightening the sails, patching the holes, then when the storm hits, you survive. You might get pushed off course, but you're still afloat, still moving. That's the gift of the 1% rule. It doesn't promise that storms won't come. It promises that when they do, you'll be strong enough to keep going. And let's not ignore the role of consistency. Consistency is the bridge between goals and reality. Think of an American football game. You don't score a touchdown every play. Most of the game is about grinding out yards, inch by inch, play by play. The team that wins isn't the one with one lucky play. It's the one that keeps moving forward consistently, no matter how small the gains. That's life. Success is built yard by yard, not mile by mile. Consistency is also why the 1% rule is so powerful for mental health. In the US, millions struggle with anxiety and depression, and the idea of fixing yourself all at once feels impossible. But small steps matter here too. Going outside for 5 minutes of fresh air, drinking a glass of water, writing down one thing you're grateful for, reaching out to a friend. None of these are dramatic solutions, but together, over time, they build resilience, hope, and strength. They remind you that you're not stuck, that you're moving forward, even if it's slow. And here's something important. Setbacks don't mean starting over. Too many people throw away their progress because they missed a day or they slipped up once. But one mistake doesn't erase the journey. If you miss brushing your teeth once, you don't throw away the toothbrush. If you miss the gym one day, you don't lose all your strength. One mistake is just 1% in the wrong direction. Get back on track with the next 1%. That's resilience. There's a quote I love. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. That's the essence of the 1% rule. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about always getting back up, even if it's just by 1%. So let's make this practical. Think of the setback you're facing right now. Maybe it's financial. Maybe it's health-related. Maybe it's emotional. Instead of asking, how do I fix everything? Ask, what's 1% I can do today? Maybe it's sending one job application. Maybe it's walking one block. Maybe it's calling one supportive friend. Whatever it is, do it. Then tomorrow, add another percent. Before long, those percents add up, and what felt impossible starts to shift. Remember this. Resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It's about being able to bend without breaking. And the 1% rule is how you bend. It's how you absorb the hits, keep moving, and come back stronger. Every small action in the face of adversity is proof that you are not done, that you are not defeated, that you are still in the fight. So the next time life knocks you down, don't try to rebuild everything in a single day. Just focus on your 1%. That's enough. That's powerful. That's what turns setbacks into comebacks. So here we are, at the end of this journey. We've talked about why the 1% rule matters, how it transforms your career, your health, your relationships, and how it carries you through setbacks. But the real question is this: what will you do with it? Because knowing the 1% rule is not enough. Reading about it, listening to it, nodding along, it changes nothing until you act. And action doesn't mean reinventing your life in one day. It means one step, one choice, 1%. Think about this: the life you want, the wealth, the health, the love, the confidence, it's already waiting for you. It's not some far-off dream. It's built 1% at a time. Every day you wait, every day you say, maybe tomorrow, is a day you could have invested in your future. Tomorrow is built today. Success is built today. Let me ask you a question. If you had started 1 year ago, just 1% better each day, where would you be right now? What skills would you have? What money would you have saved? What shape would your body be in? How much stronger would your relationships be? That's the regret most people carry. Not that they failed, but that they never started. Don't let that be you. Because here's the thing: you are not average. You are not stuck. You are not doomed to live the same year over and over again. You have power, more than you realize. You don't have to take giant leaps. You just have to take the next small step. And once you take it, take another, and another. Before you know it, you've created momentum that cannot be stopped. I want you to imagine your future self 5 years from now. Picture them standing in front of you. Do they thank you? Or do they blame you? Do they say, "Thank you for showing up, for making the hard choices, for not quitting"? Or do they say, "Why didn't you start sooner? Why didn't you give me the life we both deserve?" That choice is in your hands right now. Don't underestimate the ripple effect of your actions. When you show up for yourself, you inspire the people around you. Your kids, your friends, your coworkers. They see your growth. They see your discipline. And suddenly, your 1% doesn't just change your life, it changes theirs. That's how movements are born. That's how communities transform. That's how the world shifts. Think about every great story of success you've ever heard. The athletes, the entrepreneurs, the artists. None of them started at the finish line. They all started with small steps, with daily effort, with discipline that built brick by brick. And you're no different. You don't need to wait for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect opportunity. You just need to start where you are, with what you have, and do your 1% today. So here's my challenge to you. Right after this video ends, I want you to take one small action that moves you forward. Just one. Write down your goals for tomorrow. Do 10 push-ups. Put $5 into savings. Text someone you love. Send one email that could open a door. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you act. Because action builds momentum, and momentum builds success. And don't stop there. Make it daily. Build the discipline of showing up, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. That's where transformation happens. That's where you prove to yourself that you're stronger than your excuses. Here's the truth. Years from now, nobody will care about the excuses you had. They'll only see the results you created. And those results are built from 1% actions, repeated over time, until they compound into something massive. That's your legacy. That's your power. So don't wait. Don't say someday. Someday is a myth. You have today. You have this moment. You have this chance. And if you take it, if you choose your 1%, you will look back one day and realize that was the decision that changed everything. This is your wake-up call. This is your turning point. This is your moment to stop dreaming and start building. Don't let it pass you by. Because the 1% rule works, but only if you work it. So what's your 1% today? Decide it. Do it. Own it. And then come back tomorrow and do it again. That's how you build unstoppable momentum. That's how you create massive success. And if this message resonated with you, if you're ready to commit to your own 1% journey, then don't just walk away. Subscribe to this channel. Join this community. Hit the like button. Share this video with someone you care about. And let's grow together. Because you don't have to do this alone. We're in this together, one step at a time. Remember, Small steps, massive success. The 1% rule is your key. Now it's time to use it.